the being said, yes, we, your forefathers, order you to do this. Muhlomi was thunderstruck. He tried to argue, because Muhlomi had sons whom he was hoping would succeed him after death. Now he was now being told to go and seek out a strange young man and make him future king of the Basotho people. And as Muhlomi tried to speak, the terrible tall being stood up in the hut and threw a handful of black powder on into the fireplace. There was a terrible flash, a burst of white smoke, and as Muhlomi shielded his eyes, the being left the hut. On the following day, Muhlomi told his people this in a council meeting, and the people advised Muhlomi to obey. You are the king, Muhlomi. You have been our king for a long time. You are blameless and you are as brave as a lion. But against the gods, what can you do? And thus it was that King Muhlomi was given a tame ox by his people, and he rode on the back of this ox, accompanied by 2 of his best warriors, and he went out to seek this strange boy whom he had been ordered to make future king of the Basothos. He found the boy with his companions high up on a mountain. The boy was a bandit. He lived by stealing cattle from rich men. He was a typical black Robin Hood. And Muhlomi greeted this boy, Diphoqo, and he pinned his golden earring to Diphoqo's right ear and said, I am commanded by the spirits of my forefathers to appoint you, Diphoqo, future king of the Basotho people. I am told that you are going to make this nation great. I am told that you are going to protect it. I, Muhlomi, the armed one, have spoken. Muhlomi left Diphoqo, and Muhlomi sickened and died some time later. And the man named Diphoqo, a young man, a cattle-stealing bandit, became known as King Mushweshwe, the first of the Basotho people. As the so-called God had spoken, it so did happen. Mushweshwe, who had now discarded the name of Diphoqo, which means disappointment, and assumed the name Mushweshwe, which means the barber or the beard shaver. Mushweshwe himself started seeing visions, and he started obeying the instructions of these visions that he should build a great nation out of the Basotho nation. He collected together all the fugitives who had fled from the wars in the Cape. He collected together all the refugees who had fled from the wars by Shaka in Natal. And he molded them into the nation known as the Basotho nation, which today inhabits the land called Lesotho. But wait, there is more to the story of Moshweshwe. Moshweshwe was under attack by the Afrikaners. And one day he received another vision, a vision that told him that if his people were to be saved, he had to place himself and his people under the protection of Queen Victoria. And he did just that. When I was a child, when I was a young scholar, the land today known as Lesotho was known as the Basotho Land Protectorate. Here was a king actually destroying his sovereignty as a ruler. Moshweshwe enjoyed the loyalty of his people. Moshweshwe was greatly loved by the nation that he had formed. Moshweshwe had not really needed to make himself the subordinate of the British Empire, but he did on advice of visions that he had.
My God, you can see how it was done.
But there is more, Mr. David Icke. Sir, I think these men were secretly manipulated. I think these men had their fears and secret beliefs played against them. It is the easiest thing, sir, to manipulate a man who rules a country and who suddenly feels himself insecure. For example, the British appear to have pursued a double-edged strategy in South Africa. They did it in Natal, they did it in Lesotho, and they did it in Swaziland and in Botswana. What did they do? They used to manipulate the white Afrikaner settlers, the Boers, into fighting the native people. And then they used to send agents to the embattled black kings to tell these black kings that the best thing that they could do is to place their people and themselves under the protection of the British Empire.
Problem, reaction, solution.
Yes, sir. Now, let me ask you, sir, how did a black king know that the English were the most militarily powerful people at that time? The Africans only saw their immediate enemy, the Afrikaners. The black people only saw the Boers traveling in their ox wagons. They only saw the muskets of the Boers. But here we have a situation where a black king learns from someone about the powerful ships, sea-going ships, and the huge guns that the British have got. And this king is then advised to place himself and his people under the protection of the British. It was a strategy that the British pursued in different forms deep into Africa. They often won huge swaths of mineral-rich territory without even firing a shot. They had gun runners who smuggled bundles of muskets, tower muskets, and even Sniper rifles to black tribes. And wars between the Afrikaners and the blacks came into being in Lesotho. One of the reasons that forced Moshoeshoe to make Lesotho a protectorate under Great Britain was because he feared the repeated attacks which the angry Boers were launching against him, because some of his people were attacking the Boer farmers and stealing their cattle.
Can we talk about people like David Livingstone and those that charted the interior of Africa, etc.? Because it seems, Credo, without question, we're looking at an unbroken stream here, with one element of the takeover following another. So surely those, quote, heroes of Britain that charted the interior of Africa must have been involved in the story.
They were. They were. In fact, I can say to you now, sir, that the man in whose home Livingstone stayed, namely Reverend Moffat, was the one man who was grinding down King Khama's mind. He was the one man who used to send books and newspapers to Khama